Okay, thank you for joining us on this week's Tips and Tricks webinar. Today's topic is on the compliance blade, customizing best practices and some other tips. Please use the Q&A chat if you have any questions, and we'll make sure we answer those at the end of the webinar. We have two presenters today. One is a security architect, Andy Thomas. I'm sorry, security engineer, and Ron Pritchard, who San Carlos, Ron, are you in California?
Yes.
Okay, so we got Ron up early for this, and he manages the compliance overlay team. So, Ron, I think you're going to start us off.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. Good morning, everyone. So what I thought I would do real quick is just give a brief overview of the compliance blade and what it's used for, kind of some of the problems that it can solve, and how you can use best practices to manage your security posture. So I have a demo here that I'm running. Hopefully you can see my screen. Okay. It's just running on a virtual machine on my laptop here. So the data is kind of canned data, but it'll give you a good overview of how the compliance blade works and what it's for. So the whole concept behind building the compliance blade about 10 years ago, when you hear the word compliance blade, the first thing you think about is this category over here, regulatory compliance. But really, one of the main drivers for building this product was configuration management or monitoring. And what we Check Point has done is taken the best practices from all of the blades, gateways, all the teams that manage blades, gateways, firewalls, etc., and come up with the best practices. And actually, with the compliance blade, we provide you over 350 best practices. You can see in my overview here, it says 187 best practices. That's because I don't have all of the blades running. So if you had every blade running and you ran this, it would be 187 best practices. So the compliance blade is built into your R80 management system. So if you're running R80 on a SmartOne appliance or virtual machine, you have compliance blade embedded. All you have to do is activate it. And to activate it, we just go here to Security Gateways Management. And very easy. You click on compliance and it's now activated. It comes included when you buy a new SmartOne or R80 system, comes included for the first year. And then after that, it's a licensed blade that you would renew each year. Okay. So cancel that, go back to our logs, monitors. Okay, so once it's activated, what will happen is it will run a scan, and it's scanning the log files. It doesn't actually go out to each one of the gateways and blades. It just scans the log files, and it's looking for the configuration and policies that are in the log file, matches them against best practice, and then gives you a score. And here's the score here. So in my environment, I have 187 best practices I'm looking at across 12 gateways and 10 blades. And this is my security posture. So this is how well my configuration is aligned with Check Point best practices. These two windows over here, exact same information, just it's going by gateway or by blade. So you can drill down just to, a particular gateway if you wish, and take a look. What we'll do real quick is we'll just look at all best practices. So these are all the best practices that we're looking at in my environment. Let me group it here, group it by blade. You can see anti-bot, anti-spam, antivirus, application control, DLP, and then we come down to firewall. So for this demo, I'll just show you some of the best practices in the firewall. So looking at this here, I can see I have some that are in a poor state over here, and one of them says check that anti-spoofing has been activated on each gateway, which is kind of important. So when I click here, what this does is it actually tells me which gateways are configured properly and which ones aren't. So I could go drill down here, make the changes. Once I make the changes and activate anti-spoofing on these gateways, what will happen is these scores will go from poor to secure. This score will go from poor to medium to good to secure, and then it will affect my rating on that first page. So that's the way that you increase or enhance your security posture, is by making some of these changes. Now, in these 350 best practices, there's usually some that are not relevant for your network. And what you could do is deactivate and just hide, basically. So if I were to click on this one, what would happen is I'd have to put a note in here when I want that to expire, put a comment. And what would happen is the next time I ran a scan, this particular best practice would not be checked. Okay, so you can customize which best practices are being run or looked at, which is pretty important. So we'll cancel this. Likewise, if there's a certain gateway or policy or what have you down here, one of the relevant objects that I don't want to be included, maybe it's a test environment or something of that nature, I could remove a gateway as well. So maybe I don't want it to check this remote gateway 1. Same thing, I need to put a, how long I want that to not be checked, basically. Never, or put a date. I need to put a note in here, and that's for auditing purposes, etc. So by doing this, you can see it's interactive. Any of these that I click on, you're going to get a description down here below. This one, check that each rule has a comment defined. So this is more policy based than firewall. You can see it'll tell me which relevant objects. In this case, it's policies and the state it's in, and then I can go in and make the changes here. So it's going to give you a description of the best practice and then also an action item of how you can actually remediate that or go in and fix it. And then it's got a little scheduler here, which is nice. So if I want to make the change, maybe I've got some time this weekend. So I'm going to say I want to do it by the 24th. Say, okay, so I just scheduled that little workflow there. Here, let's go back to the anti-spoofing one. Relevant regulatory requirements. So if I click on this, Checkpoint also provides you with over 50 regulations that we map to, and I'll show you that piece in a minute. But here's just a list of all the different regulations that we map to. Okay. And I think Andy is going to show you how to make a new best practice. So you can actually make a customized best practice, and that will be part of his presentation coming up here. So if we go to the back to the home page, as you can see, as we just went into the best practices, like I said, these are grouped by gateways. And you can put, if there's several you want to keep an eye on, you can click here. And then these are the individual blades. So if you want to see how well your firewalls are configured, we'd click here and it would just show you the firewalls. Okay. So that's kind of the configuration management that I was talking about. What it's you can get a report that will tell you how well you're configured and have that automatically run once a week. A lot of customers, what they use this for is once they get their network in the state configured the way that they'd like, this is a great tool to run, take a look at least once a week. Some people use it every day, but to manage slippage. So what happens is you have adds, moves, changes, you have maybe some new people come on the team, changes are made, and you have what customers have described to us as configuration slippage. So they're defined and configured the way they want, and then over time it kind of deteriorates. So this is a way to keep a good eye on it. There's two other widgets here. This one down here, action item. So that item that I just put in is upcoming. So if I take a look, this will tell me the ones that I have scheduled. So I need to take a look at these. These are scheduled, upcoming, unscheduled, and then overdue. So this is kind of handy. The other second thing that this product does is it helps in real time prevent misconfiguration. Okay, so we have this section down here called security alerts. So if we had a security engineer or myself or anyone else went in and made a change that broke a best practice or was out of alignment with the best practice, it would show up here and it would give you the user, the date, what was changed, the new status, etc. It would give you all the information of Blade. And it would tell you that, this change was made and it breaks or it is out of alignment with this best practice. So it may be fine. It may be something that's okay for your network, but at least you'll be able to see it. If it is something that needs to be looked at, this is a very easy way to go back and remediate it, make the change back so that it is aligned with the best practice. So hopefully that makes sense. And then the third thing that the Compliance Blade is used for is to monitor how well your checkpoint environment is aligned with regulatory compliance. So like I said, here's all of them that we currently have. We come out with new ones all the time. We do updates and try and cover pretty much all of the regulations that are out there. The way it works is, let's just take a look at ISO here. It says I'm 93% compliant. What does that mean? So if I go here, this will give me a list of all of the specific regulations that I need to be, or requirements that I need to be in line with. And then what we do is we give you the best practice that's relevant. So here you can see I'm in a poor state on this first requirement. And the reason being is down here, relevant best practices. It'll tell me exactly which best practices that I'm not aligned with. I can go in and make those changes. And just like the other screen, if I make the change, this will go from poor to medium to good. Go back to how well you're configured, and your security score will go up. Okay, so this is really handy. It tells you which best practice, and it tells you which object needs to be looked at. So we can go in here and make that change. Once you make that change, like I said, this score would go from 93 to 94, 95%, what have you. Okay. So very, very intuitive. Again, you can generate a report from here. And that report can be used to give to your auditors. You can also make a custom regulation, and I believe Andy's going to cover that as well. Okay, so in brief, that's really it, a real high level overview of the Compliance Blade. Again, it's really built for three things: configuration management, and preventing configuration slippage, if you will, giving you a security score against best practices, identifying misconfigurations as they're made in real time, so that you don't have something that gets misconfigured and then not know about it. And then also alignment with regulatory compliance. So if you have any NIST, HIPAA, ISO, PCI requirements, you can map your security profile against those regulations. Okay, so that's kind of the high level overview.
Great. Thanks, Ron.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Andy, you want to?
Yeah, Ron, if you can stop sharing.
You got it.
So a couple years back, one of my customers came to me and said, you know, we want to use a compliance blade to report on our compliance status, but there's some things that we need to do as custom. And so I delved into it and, you know, got some assistance from R&D and stuff and found out that there's a lot more that you can do than I realized with the compliance blade, particularly with around the custom best practices and custom regulatory requirements. And so just going to show you a little bit about that. As Ron alluded to, that you can do more. It's not just what comes packaged that you're able to you know, monitor your system. You can do it custom based on what you need. So I'm going to start, should have started back here. You see all these best practices, but you go into the compliance blade, you have these regulatory requirements that Ron mentioned, and to create one of those that's custom, that you can add your own best practices to. Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe that you can add your custom best practices to any of the regulatory requirements. Is that right? You have
Right. Those are pretty much pre-canned. So what you could do though is if you needed to take, let's say PCI 4.0 and you wanted to add a couple things to it, you could clone that and then you could add it there and then make a new, you know, Acme regulation. Yeah.
Right. Gotcha. So you don't want to destroy the original regulatory requirement, but you can clone like most things you can do in Checkpoint. So I created this one. A lot of this stuff I said I'm going to do and use from pre-made just because of shortness of time. You can see here that there's this OS password linked Gaia OS password linked check that I have, compliance check. I'll get back to that in a minute, but now that you've got this defined, and it's pretty straightforward in defining this, you just give it a name, short name, description, and then pretty much it's just a container for what you want to add to it in best practices. But if you go over to the compliance blade, the management of that, and you go to best practices, you can create your own. Now I've got these pre ones I did. I was going to try to create them, but it just takes a bit more time. But for example, what I'm going to do, say you have a requirement that you cannot have FTP in your environment at all, and you've got 100 gateways to check that on. You know, you're checking the policy in doing this, but it's more than, you know, just a simple check on one policy. You've got to go through the environment, or maybe you have thousands of rules and FTBs and embedded in some group object. You want to be able to find that fairly quickly. So you notice right now it's secure. I have created this one. This is what it looks like. Pretty straightforward. This action item, I need to get into the admin guide to see what this is. It seems to be free text now. It's whatever action item you want to take. You may be able to run a script there, Ron. I don't know if you know, but
no, that's just giving the user what they need to do to fix that best practice. So yeah, that's free text. So you can say you know, change this, that, or the other thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you have this, like, it looks like a rule, right? So what you can do is, like, I'm just looking for anytime I accept FTP. Deny, that's not a problem. I don't care about that, but I want to know anytime I accept FTP. And then you have this advanced settings. Everybody see that okay? You're looking for the rule found where that condition is correct. For secure, you don't want to bother displaying that rule in your reports or whatever. But in poor, if it's not, you want to display that rule in your reporting. So right now we're good. I'm going to flip over here to the policy, access policy. And I've got a pre-created rule. I've been checking on Telnet, but I'm going to change this to FTP. Or I'm just going to add FTP to that rule. I'm just going to take that out just to make sure there's no conflicts. And then I'm going to publish. And then I'm going to go back over to the compliance blade and I'm going to do a rescan. You can force these rescans. Come on. Go. All right, finished 921. So it's already finished. It runs whenever you do a publish automatically anyway, but I was just going to show you where you can rescan. So going back into the best practices. Oh, it actually is still scanning. So I'm going to search on FTP. So it's not finished yet. This should obviously change to poor. Actually, it is. If you see this, I changed it just for this policy, the standard network policy. I didn't change it on all the other ones. So this gives you some insight. If I have to make a change on one policy, obviously you're only going to be poor on the policy that you changed, and that's poor. Even with the scan, it's already found it. So you see the benefit of it. Obviously, you can monitor your environment and avoid that drift that Ron was talking about. It kind of goes along with, if you're familiar with the cloud, the continuous compliance that you get from, the Dome 9 features. It's the same idea of, protect me from myself is essentially what it is, and protect my environment from, poor administration. Humans make errors, that kind of thing. So another compliance best practice check that this is really what I was given by the customer was, how do you do these OS compliance checks? So like Gaia settings. So what you see here on the screen is a simple script, and I'm not a bash scripter. This is really the heavy lifting of what you're checking for. And it takes some effort, and I'm not like I say, a bash scripter. I got some assistance with this, but this essentially is saying, I want to check the password length for Gaia to make sure my passwords are greater than 6 or 7 and above. And then what you do is you just once you test this, I'll run this, and you'll see we just pop a status. So it's failed. So it's already, it's below 7. So I just essentially copied this script and put it into I just happen to know this check. This is essentially that script. And then down here, you see the condition that we're looking for is success. And if it's not, it's gonna tag it as insecure. So we go in to Gaia, change that password length. Seven. And see if we can get compliant. It's still scanning. I don't know if that was from the first one or not. Usually those scans take are pretty quick. Actually, so it's poor now before we changed it to 7. So let's see when that changes. So it's still poor. Gotta love live demos.
I love it, man. Do you have to publish?
The
it yet?
effect of that is, I know this works.
You might
Like,
go in and hit,
trust me. What's that? Go ahead.
you might go in and hit scan again.
All right.
Just-
Maybe it was,
just,
maybe that scanning it said was for the one that finished and it just never.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And the scan runs automatically, should run automatic when you publish, and also once every night it runs. And then you could force scan it, like he's doing now.
Right, yeah.
We could change.
All right. So, yeah, that's right. It's 9:21. We're at 9:26. So,
Yeah, so that was the previous, yeah.
Yeah.
So it does take a second. Depends how big your log file is, right?
Yeah. Let's just go back there and just be patient and wait till it says it's finished.
Well, while you're doing that, I can ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
Cool. Unless you had more you're going to go through, or.
No, that's it.
Oh,
That's
okay.
it.
Yeah. For either of you, I guess, the regulations that are canned and in there, how often are they updated? Do you have to go grab them or install the updates?
Yeah, so during the course of you know, the version change, usually we have 1 or 2 new regulations. So when we go from like R80 30 to R80 40, that time period in between, let's say we come up or a customer requests, one we just did was PCI 4.0, right? Just became available. So what we do is we'll map it to the best practices, and then we put it up on Checkmates. On Checkmates, there's a little section toolbox. And in the toolbox, it will have all of the different regulations that are supported. You can grab an XML file right there, and then copy it to your you know, your desktop, and then you can come over here and you can upload it. It's very easy. You just say import XML, and then it comes up, and now you have it on your dashboard. So very easy. If a policy or new regulation comes out that a customer is interested in, this is usually how we you know, come up with the new ones. A customer request will come up. We'll take a look at it. You know, SE will open an RFE. We'll take a look at it, and then we have it, usually have it within a couple of weeks, if it makes sense. As far as the updates, we do go back probably every 6 months, or, you know, twice a year, and have our consultant go through all of the best practice or all of the regulations and make sure they're up to date.
Great. Let's see.
So I am not sure what's happening there. This does work, but that's in principle, that's how it works. I may have messed something up in the actual best practices configuration, but it is definitely, you know what, let me check one other thing. Let me go back into, make sure we're doing checks on the, I may have not added it. I didn't show you how, and this is something I need to do anyway, was show you how to add stuff into the custom regulatory compliance. So you have that, corporate best practices, edit that. Password linked is in there. I was concerned that it wasn't. Actually, I was going to add, like, if we want to add the FTP one to this, you pretty simple to find and add. Running out of real estate. Oh yeah, you gotta. Description. So that adds that to the standard. Again, I'm not sure exactly why that didn't pick it up, but I've consistently seen that work. Obviously, that's one of the ones I had to do for a customer. So Back to questions.
Back to you mentioned, Ron, I believe, mentioned reporting. So is that, you said it weekly? Is that a standard thing? Or you have to set that up? Is it emailed?
Yeah, you could set it up, and you could email it, print it, save it as PDF. We have 2 reports that you could actually run. One is on the actual compliance blade. And what that will do is it will show you, there you go there. It'll actually show you, you know, your security status. So he's bringing it up here as soon as it loads. So basically it's a snapshot, kind of like what's on that dashboard. Shows you how secure your firewall is. It shows you all the best practices that are running. It'll give you the recommendation. It'll show you what status they're all in. So that could be run as often as you want. And like I said, you could have it emailed. You could run it once a week, have it emailed to the team. And that's what a lot of companies do. And then they kind of look for, like I said, that configuration drift or slip, and make sure that they're in alignment. The other ones are, the other report is on any of the regulations. You could run a report. And on the regulation, it'll tell you how compliant you are. It'll tell you each one of the best practices that's mapped. And so that's a great report to run as well.
Great. You mentioned about adding regulations that aren't in there yet. How would customers submit that request?
Through an RFE, usually with the SE that they're working with.
Okay, just let their team know and they can get the process going. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that pretty much covers it. I'm looking real quick here.
There's your scheduler for your reports.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, great. All right, I think that covers it, guys. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Ron. Let's see here. We'll send the follow-up email with any reference content and the recording link of this session. Our next webinar will be in 2 weeks. You'll see the invitation for that soon. With that, I'll let you go. Andy, Ron, thanks again. And everybody else, enjoy your day. See you next time. Bye,
Thank
boys.
you.
Thanks,
Thank
Rob.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.